Well, oh, there we go. All right. We are live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. If you are watching this on the replay, we appreciate you watching us there as well. If you are watching us live, you can let us know in the comment section on the, oh, my computer's doing something weird. Oh, no. Okay, hold on. I have to go change a setting. It's putting a green screen behind me, which I thought I had turned off. So let me make sure that that is turned off, or otherwise you're not going to see anything. Alex, can you tell me what you're seeing right now? Because when I look at my screen, all I see is green. Or Crystal, can you tell me what you see? Crystal, are you seeing me, or are you seeing a bunch of pretty colors, which is what I'm seeing on my phone at the moment?
I can pull it up over here.
Do you see me, Fran?
I see you here.
Okay. You see.
Alex just says she sees a white wall.
So you can see my face, Alex? Because what my phone is showing. Okay. All right. Well, then we'll go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Something is messing up with my computer on my phone. So let me see if I can. If I can't see us on my phone, then I won't worry about it. But as long as you guys can see me, that's what's most important. Oh, there we are. Okay. Yeah. I don't know why that was weird. Why it was doing that weird thing on my phone. All right. Sorry about that. Possible technical glitches, but thankfully not. So I am Shelly Kino. I am an educational consultant specializing with families who have special needs, dealing with the special education system in the public schools. And I met Fran through a different venue about 10-ish years ago. She was an instructor at a therapeutic writing center in my area. And I went out there, and I love horses and I love children that have special needs. So it seemed like the perfect place for me. And I became a volunteer. And for 3 years, we worked together on a fairly regular basis. And then I moved on to other things. And I think Fran did too after another couple of years. But now I think you are back there as a writer. Is that correct?
Yes, I am a writer and also an occasional instructor.
Awesome. Okay, so we'll get into that as well as we go through. So first of all, Fran, tell us a little bit about you and what your life is like.
I have a couple of kiddos who happen to have special needs, different needs. That's kind of just, that word is ever changing, special needs. Because now I myself also have different abilities, different needs. I had some medical issues, and now I use a wheelchair and a walker quite often. So I'm more aware of labels or how labels are used or terminology. But my kids are 21 and 20, and adults, yet in some ways still children. And I think that's
Yep.
about the sums of it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Would you mind going into a little bit more? And I didn't ask you this ahead of time, so if you can't answer, that's fine. You said you use a walker, and can you tell us a little bit about what happened to you that you are now someone with special needs also?
Yes, I had a stroke and then a series of concussions, and so my nugget doesn't always process just the way I am off angled here, and I'm going to work on this. It doesn't always quite process everything quite the way I want, but the neat thing is God's just kind of, when I need to do something, he gives me the ability to do it. And so that's kind of how I go day to day. God is my strength and just guide. Yeah, I'm in a wheelchair for now. So, because it's a little safer. Because I was never one to go slowly, and so I forget. Because what I have found is I don't see myself as having different abilities. And if I don't put my wheelchair beside my bed when I get out at night, I fall because I forget I can't walk. Because it doesn't define me, and so that's really made me realize, maybe it doesn't. My kids, they don't see themselves that way. That doesn't define them, so they don't see that. So, and I don't see it in myself. So it's really changed my perspective on a lot of things.
That's awesome. That's fabulous. So do you mind if I say their names, or do you want their names?
Oh, no, you can say their names. Yeah.
Okay. Or we could just call them Little Bit and
or you can call it. Yeah. Mr. Man and Bit.
Yeah, Mr. Man and Bit. So what are Mr. Man and Bit's diagnosis exactly?
We'll use their names. Luke has Down syndrome. And I think the PC term for is intellectual delay now. I can't remember. Is that what it is now?
Yeah.
Because we don't use MR anymore.
Right.
Which was, by the way, I will go into that really quickly. That word was very traumatic. The day my son went from being labeled developmentally delayed to mentally retarded, that was hard. That was a grieving process. But we can touch back on that later if you want. Autism, depressive disorder, sleep apnea, and seizure disorder. Those are just a few of the ones for Luke. And then my daughter, she has ADHD and autism, bipolar, anxiety, ODD, which is like a key component in a lot of parenting with her, and a seizure disorder. And if you would like, do you know what ODD is?
I do, but our guests may not. I mean, our listeners may not.
And could you go into a little further detail on that, because she's in the living room right now.
Oh, okay. So ODD stands for oppositional defiant disorder. And pretty much it comes down to any directive that they are given can set them off, as far as having some sort of a meltdown, or I don't want to call them temper tantrums, because it's not necessarily that they are controlling it. Oppositional defiant disorder is one of those things that has been debated throughout the years as to how to treat it, whether to keep that label, and that sort of thing. And so, however, anyone who has someone that was given that diagnosis believes it to be real. And I've seen, I used to provide respite care for someone who had the label along with others. And typically you don't have ODD without something else. And right. He definitely, you had to be careful with how you worded things, the tone of your voice, your body language, and just go kind of tread lightly.
I like to think sometimes I want to go from A to B, but sometimes you go in this huge to get to B, because the direct path is not always the wisest path.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
A lot of people don't understand that, and they think they're very critical because it's not an understood thing.
Right. Yeah. And I feel that not just with ODD, but with ADHD, specific learning disabilities, autism, any of what they call the invisible disabilities, that a lot of people don't believe that they're real, and they don't understand them, and they misinterpret lots and lots of behaviors, and that getting from A to B will happen for most of the people that I've ever dealt with, and probably in your experience as well with your kids. But how they get there is probably going to look a little different, or maybe a lot different. But they're
Yes.
still going to get there, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe it'll take them, I don't know, 3 weeks, where somebody else went from A to B in 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean they're not getting to B. So I think
Right.
that's a very good point, and something that definitely needs to be remembered as someone who is parenting children with special needs, but also for myself as a teacher, remembering
Yes.
that, because that definitely plays into the school system and the school environment.
And we've had teachers, they've had teachers that understood that completely. And then we've had teachers that it was a challenge. It was a process of learning it, and some were better at it than others.
Yeah. Did you find that the ones who were willing to learn were fewer than the ones who were not willing to learn, or was it different?
No, we were blessed to have very supportive educators.
Good.
Both the primary teachers, the classroom aides, the individual aides, the administrators. Overall, I would say we've been blessed. There, you have your oddball ones, but yeah, it's been good.
Good. That's good. I wish I could say that has been everyone's experience, but
Right.
I'm sure you have spoken to people, and I certainly have over my years as teaching, but also my years of being an IEP coach, that that is not the case in too many situations, to be honest. All right. So tell me, so you said that having Luke's diagnosis change from, or eligibility change from, developmental delay to intellectual delay. I'm trying to think. I don't even know if I think that is the PC term for it right now.
I know it's ever changing, so it's
right.
hard to keep up with.
Yeah.
It happened when he went from early intervention to early childhood.
Okay. And what was that process like for you? I mean, I know you said it was emotional. It was traumatizing.
The whole thing, especially, I really wanted to speak to this, since we are, you're an educator, is so early intervention, it's geared towards the child, but also the family. You had an IFSP, I don't think it's called that anymore, Individualized Family Service Plan, in early intervention. And then all of a sudden it's IEP, Individualized Education Plan. So then we've got, okay, now you've taken out the family. Because
that's an excellent point.
It's geared towards the students. So it was a process. It was like, oh, okay, well, I wasn't prepared. And then they do all these tests. It was an all-day affair that we had to go to a school, and they did all these tests, and I was not prepared. I don't know if I missed it or I just didn't know, but Luke struggled. It was just a long day for him. He was a wee kid, and he was hungry, he was tired, and they were making him do things. And then at the end of it, they sat me down to tell me the test scores and things. And I was like, not prepared for that. And that was the first and only time through his entire educational process that I listened to a test score and listened to what he couldn't do, and where he ranked, and what he wasn't able, and why and I finally said, you need to stop. I said, I'm not in denial that he can't, but will that help in any way further him, to help him to become the best he could be? And they're like, well, if you know this score. I said, no. Will it help him? And they're like, well, I said, okay, without the test scores, I don't need to know the test scores, correct? They said, well, and I said, okay, how about this? I don't want to know the test scores. Let's move from this point forward. What are we going to do to help him succeed? And from that time on, whenever he got testing, if perhaps they'd forget at the IEP and they'd start, I'd be like, eh. And then someone would go, Fran doesn't want to hear it. She doesn't. And so that's where I was blessed, though, because I had people that understood that. It wasn't that I'm in denial that my kids couldn't do something. It didn't matter in the whole scheme of things.
Right.
So that whole process was really difficult.
And I appreciate your honesty and sharing that, because to my knowledge, that has been an experience that most of the families that I've ever worked with go through. And I had students, our parents, that in IEP meetings would be just like you. I don't care what the scores say. Tell me how we're going to help my child, prepare them for life. I don't care what, a test result says. But as the law mandates, we have to do that so that we have that justification to provide them with the special education. But we forget that we're still talking to moms and dads.
Right.
And they see what we're telling them with numbers anyway. And we don't need to kind of keep hammering that in. How old was Allie when she was determined eligible?
Yes, Allie's journey was definitely different. She was actually born 4.5 weeks early, and she just screamed and cried all the time, and they never did figure that one out. And she had night terrors and rage fits, and but because Luke was getting early intervention services, Allie was around through all of that process. So we started noticing, like she wouldn't put her hands on the ground, and she was delayed in speech, and we thought it was possibly just because she was watching Luke and she was learning sign language, so she could do that. But she did end up getting early intervention for speech, and then she was involved with early Head Start from the beginning. Since before she was even born, I was in the program, and then and so then she had and when she was in school, she didn't have speech. Then she had caught up, but she had help with reading. I don't remember what it is. It a title something program?
It could be, yeah.
I don't remember. So she had help with that for a while, and she loves to read now. And she's and they didn't want to give her an IEP. It was forever for us to even get a diagnosis for her of autism. And then it was a fight we got a 504. And a 504 really means nothing. It's a guideline. And they know that. And you have teachers that are like, well, it's a guideline. I don't have to do it. And then you have teachers that go, oh, well, it must mean you guys have put this together because this is the best practice and this will help her succeed. And they were on top of it. And it took till 7th grade to flip it to an IEP.
Wow.
And I think I'll, if it's okay, I'll speak to this a little bit. Sure. I worked prior to my health change. I worked with developmentally delayed adults for many, many, many years, and so I've been around it. But to me, they're all just people who happen to have. It's a person who happens to have. That is not who they are.
Right.
And I think that's just, sorry, I kind of lost my train of thought, but that's kind of how I see both of my kids too. And I want them to succeed. I want them to go places, and I want them to do the best that they can do. But I also know they have their own lives, and I can't force them to do something or I shouldn't. I probably could force and say, you've got to do this, but that's not appropriate parenting, no matter if you have okay, I don't know if this is a PC term. I'm not really sure. Sorry, my phone was ringing. I forgot to turn
That's
it
okay.
off.
So
Anyway,
all I
got
heard you
distracted.
say was,
Sorry.
I'm not sure if this is the PC term, and then your audio cut off.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was my phone. Let me just turn my phone off. This will make life a lot easier. Because it's running through my Bluetooth as well. I apologize for that.
Oh, no, that's fine.
So
what were you worried
PC
that
term.
wasn't the PC term?
Oh, yes. For people that have kiddos that don't happen to have special needs, typically developing, is that, I don't know, that's one of the terms I've heard, neurotypical,
right.
Whatever. I hate that the world has revolved into labels.
Yeah.
People have the need to label, whether even like myself, people want to label me. They see me in a wheelchair. Did you know that if you see somebody, if you see somebody in a wheelchair, a lot of people assume that they also have a mental delay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. Because I don't know if I just never thought of that, but that's a battle I fight all the time right now.
Yeah. And
people just think I can't do it, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Someone had to explain it to me. I didn't understand it.
And I only know that, I mean, you understand it because you're living it now. I have a surface knowledge because that's one of the things that I have just learned throughout my career in special education is the differences in how people are looked at and how people are treated based on what they look like. We talked a little bit, and I just want to say hi to my mom and Crystal and Kelly and Alex. Thank you all for joining us and for chatting off into the side on the box there. That invisible disabilities versus, when I look at Allie, I mean, I know that of all of her characteristics, she also has some disabilities in there that she deals with. When I look at Luke, though, I can see, because Luke has some of the physical characteristics of Down syndrome.
Okay. And am I able to share a screen?
Did
you do this or not?
I think you can.
There's an option. Go ahead and keep talking. I'm gonna.
Okay. Yeah, I know there is. I didn't know if I needed to enable it for you first, but I think you'll be okay. I might just have to. Do you have the option to change the format of how the screens look, or is that just my option?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, let me do
window. Here it is. I can see it. There it is.
Okay. So right now in the middle.
Do you see it?
Okay. I've changed it to where I think if you share your screen, we'll be able to see both of us and your screen.
Okay. I'm sharing a screen right now. You have to probably allow it.
Oh, there it goes. Okay. Yep.
I just wanted you to see my children. I thought that would be a good option. So that's Allie. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. You can keep talking, and I'll share later in a second.
So what we were talking about was the difference between invisible disabilities and visible disabilities. And I found in my career that my students who were obviously dealing with some disabilities were almost more accepted because there's Mr. Man, almost because people recognized it. But the people that were, had the ADHD or the autism or the specific learning disability, those invisible disabilities, were treated like they were having their behaviors and their academic issues on purpose.
Yes. It is so true.
Yeah. So I that's how I know it. But like I said, I feel like there's a difference between the word know and the word understand. And I feel like you have an understanding because you live it. And that might be a topic for another day that we just talk specifically about the treatment of people.
And I forget sometimes myself, and they're my children.
Yeah. Oh, and
So
I think
we can touch that another day if you want or whatever.
And I think that happens with our kiddos in education, because I think because those with the invisible disabilities don't have an outward sign, that our teachers sometimes forget as well. And then until a behavior pops up or an academic issue pops up, and then they kind of revert back to you're doing it on purpose, before they even really think about, oh, wait, no, this child has whatever disability, So I've it's weird because since I've been out of teaching, I've found more grace for teachers.
Yes.
When I was teaching, I used to get very frustrated with some of my fellow teachers at how they treated some of my students. But now that I am not in the middle of it, and I can take a step back and look at the big picture, I think I'm seeing some of my teachers probably more realistically than what I did when I was teaching with them.
Right. Did you know my mom was a teacher? So I had that perspective as well. I was raised around teachers. I know teacher. I don't expect a teacher to be to be perfect. I don't expect them they're humans.
Right.
And they have strengths and weaknesses. It's just finding the balance of their strengths and weaknesses and my children's strengths and weaknesses to get the best out of it.
Yeah. So I see that we've already been on for 26 minutes, and I told you this would only probably go about 30 minutes. Are you okay going longer, or do we?
I have all the time in the world.
Okay.
We're okay. Yeah, I know. I guess I should pull up my screen that has information. Okay, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I know we haven't discussed most of what we said we were going to discuss, and but I also didn't want to keep you longer if you had another.
I'm fine. This was it for the afternoon. So.
Okay, perfect. So I think the next thing I have on my list, we actually have sort of touched on, but I just want to bring it up in case there's anything else you want to add, which is their school lives. What was it like for them? Because they're both out of school now, right?
No, Allison is still in school. Okay. Yes, you saw the sign. She actually graduated the other year, but she's in extended education now.
Okay.
And that's another whole ball game. Goodness gracious. Okay, but I'm going to touch on Luke real fast, and then I want to elaborate a little bit on Allison. Okay. Luke was in early childhood education, and then I had him repeat kindergarten a couple of times because I just thought it would help him out, and I knew he had all the time in the world because he could be in school till a certain age. And then, but there's this age range that they can't be spread out. But so since I had him repeat kindergarten, he was going to have to go to another school for just a year out of district and then come back. So we skipped a grade then. Yes. But then we repeated sixth grade a couple times. So, he's kind of he's between this class and this class group of kids, and they were both great with him.
Good.
And so, and he had an individual aid through this whole process. Luke was and still is a flight risk, and a runner. So yes, we used to have locks on all our doors and everything. It's kind of weird now that he's not here, not to have coded locks on everything. But, so he could have been in an extended education, but he actually graduated a year early. So yes, Luke's was, but he graduated a year early because Luke doesn't communicate always the best. Developmentally, just to give you kind of an idea, or for anyone that doesn't know Luke, he likes Barney and Caillou and VeggieTales. That's where he is in his mind. But he likes cops and et cetera, things like that. But what does he understand? So that's kind of where he is geared. But so it was more his behaviors that we had to go off of than his words. And he was done. He had checked out of school. He was not wanting to cooperate. he just wasn't happy, and you could tell. So I made the decision, with the help of family and friends, that it was time for Luke just to graduate and not continue. However, we were unable to get him into like a closed workshop or something in the area. So he was home until my health changed. But Allison, she graduated, and then she's continuing with extended education. And until this coronavirus thing happened, she was getting job training in the morning. She was working at a couple of places here in town. And one of the mornings she would go do shopping. So she was learning to shop off of a list and things. And then she had a regular ed class in the afternoon and a couple of classes for adult living and things like that. So that was what she was doing. And now she's supposed to be doing remote learning. Supposed to. And I'll leave it at that.
Oh, I was going to ask you to elaborate.
Oh, it's not happening.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
Is it, the school is the homeschool, right? I mean, like, she didn't, once she graduated, she didn't have to start attending somewhere else. She continued.
No, she's still at her homeschool. Yes.
Okay. They're providing her materials and she's just not able or willing to do it?
Yes.
Okay.
They dropped off a Chromebook for her and everything.
Okay.
And that's one thing I've learned, especially with that diagnosis about which we were speaking earlier. Mm-hmm. There are some times, and I can beat myself up as a parent and say I'm a failure. And I have people, I've had people say that I just let her get away with stuff and I spoil her rotten. But sometimes, choose your battles. People throw that out there, but sometimes it's very important for my own mental health and well-being to not battle.
Right.
So, right. I mean, that's a struggle right now with that. Definitely, I have friends who have children who have even more needs than Allison, and my props, my hands, I give them a high five for that, because we're struggling, and I can't imagine having to do all of that so many people are doing during this time.
Yeah. I also give high five and kudos to all the parents who are teachers as well right now. And on the flip side of that, all of the teachers who are parenting and teaching at the same time right now.
Yes.
It is a difficult situation all the way around. And I was in a meeting prior to this one, and we were talking about that. And we talked about that we need to have grace for one another right now, because nobody knows what's reasonable as far as what should be accomplished or what should be expected or how this should or should not work. The main thing that I seem to be getting from educators and the State Board of Education in Illinois is what you just said, Fran, is to focus on mental health right now. That, the academics can be caught up. And, that's what teachers do. That's their superpower, as one of my teacher friends said, is to teach kids or to teach young adults if they're in high school or college. But it's much more difficult to teach that child if they can't learn because of emotional stress that they're still processing through. And so, I have recommended almost every time I've spoken with a parent who has a child in school is to not worry about the academics and really do, try them every day if you want to. But if it's seriously stressing you and your child out, and for the families who have multiple children, I don't know how you would do it anyway. And then if you throw in the fact that maybe one or more of your children have a disability to try to accommodate for and change the curriculum and all of those other kinds of things, take a break. If it's too much, it's too much. And you have to be okay with admitting and accepting that it's more than what can be done right now.
Thank you. That's good to hear. 'Cause, some days it's the struggle to even say, get up. And yeah. So that's the day we're having today.
Yeah. And you know what? 1 day, 2 days, 3 days, it's in her full lifespan is not very much at all.
So, yeah.
And so if you have to take a whole week off, take it. If you have to just, okay, we're not doing school today, or we're not doing school this afternoon, or, whatever the time frame is, the teachers will help her when she gets back. And you have lots of amazing support people also that can help. I see that Gina has joined us, or she was, I don't know if she's still here. But yeah, I know Gina is a great support for you, and Linda. And so I know, I don't see her on here, but
and Loretta.
And Loretta, I know that you have a lot, and your parents. Oh my gosh,
and Alex, and and that's the neatest thing. That's one of the things I wrote. You had asked me, where have I received help, or what's helped me? The list just kept going, because I was listing people, and I was listing things, and I was like, I've just been blessed. God has made sure it put people in my life, especially when I needed it. There have been some really rough goes of it with Luke. Allie lives at home. Is it okay to jump to that real fast?
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Right.
I don't want to.
Okay.
I know order is tough for you since the stroke, so I didn't want to kind of scatter things up.
Oh, I made my screen. Luke is blue and Allie's pink, and I wrote so I can kind of glance over and go, oh, okay, that's yeah. Okay. But I had always thought Luke would live at home the rest of his life, and Allie would move on at some point in life. And right now it's kind of flipped. Allie is at home, and she's welcome to stay at home as long as she ever wants. And Luke is living in a group home in Asilla, which is a community integrated living, starts with an A, something.
Yeah, I can't think either what it stands for.
I can't think. But anyway, he started off in a home that had a lot of people in it, a handful of more people, and now he's actually the only person. He's in a 1-bedroom apartment in a town right next to me, which is so nice. He's couple blocks away from where I go to church, so I can drive by and I can glance at his front door and just say, it gives me a sense of peace just to be able to go, okay, there's Luke. I don't have to see him, but I know he's there. And he really struggled with that transition. He didn't understand. Imagine putting someone, a toddler, a pre-K kid, ripping them from their home and putting them somewhere.
Yeah.
And then expecting them to grasp it. And that's the process he's been through. And it's been difficult, and he's adjusted. He has adjusted better. And he would come, he has staff with him all the time, and they would bring him for lunch every week. And I'd fix him something he liked, and then we'd hang out, and it would be like he was home. But now with this COVID thing, he's not getting it again. And that picture I shared, I have not 50 days since I have been allowed to touch my son in any way or hug him, and that has been hard.
Yeah.
But so he's not getting it, and he's getting more frustrated and sullen, and he's lashing out more, and it hurts my mom heart to see that. But
Of course.
all I can do is, pray and trust. I have friends, I have people that I went to high school with in college. I had randomly put it on Facebook that I couldn't see them, and then people started volunteering to send him cards and things. People have sent him pictures of their dogs and horses because he loves animals, and so and that's what gets him through. And so, and the staff that's for them. So that's been an interesting thing there.
Yeah. And I remember when you were trying to make that decision to put him at the Scylla and how agonizing that was for you. Is there any advice that you have for maybe another parent going through a similar situation, or that might be going through that in a year or 2 or 3?
You can only do what you have within you. And if you've given all you can, and you've given the best you have, and the best you have may not be the best someone else has or what the world expects you to have. If you know in your heart you've done all you can, it doesn't make you a failure when you need help. It doesn't mean because you said you would never do something and you find yourself having to do it. Ultimately, for Luke's benefit and his health, I had to do it. If I loved him enough, I had to do it. It was selfish of me to try to make it work with him at home when I couldn't physically, in some ways, care for myself. So, and also, it's just finding the resources was hard. But because I'd worked in the field, I had a better grasp of it. My heart hurts for people that don't have these connections, that don't have anyone, and all of a sudden they're thrust into, oh my goodness gracious, I have my child, and they can't live at home anymore. The resources aren't together.
Right.
If you don't have, I had written a note a little bit above that was, did you know when they turn 18, even though you're their parent, you can't be their guardian unless you take them to court?
I did know that. Again, only because,
absurd?
huh?
That's absurd.
Yeah.
That would be like telling you can't be your child's, you can't make decisions for your child. I mean, it is
right.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
Because all of a sudden you no longer have that right.
Yeah. And again, that's another topic that we could talk about on another day, because I have several of my former students have now reached that age, and it's because of them that I learned about it, because I had no idea otherwise. And I'm glad you brought that up, because it is something that
people know.
Yeah, people don't know, and it could end up being a really bad situation if it isn't done, and if it isn't done correctly, and if it isn't considered.
And it's expensive.
See, that part I didn't know. Okay.
It's expensive.
Because you each have a lawyer, right?
Yes, I had to have you can do it without, but if you don't know what you're doing, and even I did it with Luke, and then I had to do it with Allison, so I had a grasp of it, but I couldn't, that paperwork was overwhelming. There was no way I could have done it.
Yeah.
It cost, and so I had set money aside for Luke. I hadn't built it back up by this, it was just like,
right.
So those are things that you don't know. I wish that was part of, and talking to Luke's teachers, the special ed teachers, they didn't know, so I couldn't blame them. Right. They know now, and they tell people.
Right.
That, where in the system have we dropped the ball? How can we help people? That's where we are now.
Yeah. And that's a really good point. I have been amazed at all the differences between raising my quote unquote typical child versus what your family or other families who have a child or children with a disability go through. Because your mindset is even different as far as what you think about for the future. And
I from the moment Luke was born, I was thinking of his future. I mean, his future without me. That's my thought process. Some nights I sit there going, okay, when I'm dead, who is going to be there for Luke? Who is going to make sure? And then it was, who's going to be there for Allison?
right.
So I don't think that's a typical thought that a lot of parents have. I mean, I'm sure we all think it at some point, but it's a consistent thing. But because of knowing that God has a plan for each of us, a plan to prosper us and to give us hope in the future, I know He has a plan for each of my children, and I just have to trust in that.
Yeah.
For me, that is my strength, and that is what gets me through.
Yeah. Amen. And you're right. That is not, I mean, yes, at a certain point, my husband and I drew up a will and, appointed guardians if we were to pass before our daughter turned 18. But even the depth of that is nothing. And for anyone who raised or is raising typically developing children, I hope you're getting a better appreciation for any families that you might know that have children with special needs, because it is a very different approach to parenting. And I'm that really wasn't something we said we were going to discuss, and I'm glad we sort of went down that road, because it is so incredibly different. And
can I tie in something else now?
Of course.
I'm sorry, because
no, you go ahead.
I'm like, man, this sounds so dreary about raising kids who happen to have special needs, but there's so many cool things, and there's so many positive things, and there's so many good things, and those are the things that, yes, there are some really nasty, yucky, draw you down in the depths, but yeah, and if you dwell on those, life seems pretty hopeless, and there are days that I can get stuck in that, but I have friends and I have family and I have support that pulls me up out of that hold me accountable. And it's okay to have days like that. I want to say that you can be human, you can have lows, but to stay there is not good for you or your children. But the positives, I got to go into that, because I mean, Luke is like, he can walk into a room, he can smile, he can walk up to a random stranger, say, hi, how are you? Mm-hmm. How are you? And if you don't answer him, he's going to keep asking you. And
because he genuinely wants to know. It's not that.
And he's going to hug you, and he knows no stranger. And he loves sports, and he'll sing you a song, and he's going to give you a hug. But he also, don't tell me Down syndrome people are so loving, I'm going to chunk a shoe at you if you tell me that kind of thing. They are people. They are people.
Yeah.
They may have some loving characteristics, but so do you and so do I. But that doesn't mean that we're always going to be loving. So don't say, oh, because, anyway, right. Sorry. Another subject.
That's okay.
but anyway, he loves his animals. He loves his dogs. He can remember every animal that he's ever come in contact with name-wise, even including the ones that have passed away. And he will sit and recite them to you. So I miss, and he'll go through all of the animals that have passed away. And then talk about the animals that you have. He loves music. He loves Elvis. He'll sing you songs. Blue suede shoes. He'll get the guitar. And so, I mean, those are some positive things. Allie, she loves bugs. She'll spend hours in the yard just looking for bugs. And she chased me with a snake the other day because she found a snake. She loves snakes. I don't like snakes. If she doesn't like spiders, I'll tell you that one. But, And she loves horses, and she's ridden at Shakota. And then she was actually, it came full circle. She was my volunteer. She was my sidewalker when I
Oh,
first
wow.
um it was a very special time. It was and that's part of the thing. I'm gonna cross my fingers so I hopefully remember. But she she loves her horses, and but that's part of with Allison right now is how our roles have changed a little bit. We have a unique situation right now because at one point at something she has to help care for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so how do you balance that? I'm her mom, yet she's helping me sometimes. So that's got to be confusing for her. And so how do I keep my authority in certain areas, but in other areas become her friend? So that's something that's a really big thing we're going through right now. Is just the new I guess the new phrase is new normal
Yeah.
or whatever, or the season. I call it a season. The season we're in. How do we navigate this season?
Yeah. And that's a very good point, because even my daughter, who is 20, has had to come back home from college. She's been, away for, it was going to be 2 years, and then came home in March and has been here ever since. And we're kind of trying to figure out that new dynamic too of, okay, we're still your parents, but you're an adult and you work and you make your own money and you do all these things, but you're in our home, and, just trying to figure out all that kind of stuff. And again, not probably the same, but kind of. I mean, I kind of get, a little of what you're talking about. Um, I want to check over, because I kind of feel like we've done all the topics, but we're coming up on 52 minutes.
Okay. Can I just touch on one thing that we
yeah, absolutely. That's what I wanted to say was whatever you
some
wanted
of the
to say.
resources I just wanted to touch on that are in our area and things that parents might not think of or that have been beneficial for my family.
Please.
If that's all right. Special Olympics. Both of my children are eligible for it. They did individual skills sports. Luke did, and then Allie has done team sports and individual skills, and she thrives at it. Luke enjoys the camaraderie. He actually got to compete. His school did individual skills basketball, and it was held in his school. The district tournament was held in his school, so he got to represent his school in his school, and it was just, I felt kind of like a normal parent, and I was like, he's representing his school. It was just neat to see. I got to experience something maybe from the other side, I guess. I'm not sure. But so, there's so many resources out there, but it's hard to find them, or it's overwhelming when you Google it.
Yeah.
I wish there was a better way. I wish there was a way where resources were better pooled, or especially in the rural areas.
Yeah.
A lot of things you got to go towards St. Louis if you really want to.
Right. Yeah. And that is also expressed with a lot of the parents that I've worked with over the years, and especially as their kids have gotten older. When a child is in school, many of the resources are provided to them. But once you hit 18, 19, 20, 21, especially, like you said, in rural America, and I had written a blog a while back on remote learning and special education and how it is not optimal, but then you add in being in a rural area like we are, and that just adds more problems, because we were already thin, I guess would be the word, on resources. And then you throw this other twist in there, and that makes it even more difficult.
Mm-hmm. I look at my friend. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I know we need to close it up. It's okay.
Well, we don't have to, and I would love to keep talking to you. And maybe I was thinking as we were discussing that maybe we could make this a weekly chat with Fran.
We could chat. I have lots of stories.
I know.
I just realized I didn't touch on. I used to speak to educators and first year medical students.
Yeah. And
Well,
I mean,
over there, so
there's so, like I said, there's just so much that you have to offer that is different than what I have to offer.
different. Is that a good thing?
Yes,
Different
absolutely.
in a good way or different in a bad way? Just had to ask.
No, I have nothing bad to say about you. Come on, you know that.
I know, but when people say, "Oh, that's kind of different," sometimes you're in your heart, you go, "Are they meaning you need to just stop right now, or are they meaning that's a good difference?"
No, I hear you, and I appreciate differences in both definitions of that word. I recognize them and appreciate that they exist, and it's necessary to have differences, and I appreciate in a thankful way that there are differences because no, we don't need a whole world of Shelleys. That would not be a good world to live in.
Oh my goodness, no. And not of myself.
And
I would want to live with myself.
Yeah, so I am glad that there is a whole world of 3 billion or whatever it is, unique individuals, because life would be awful,
Unique,
honestly, in my opinion, if we didn't have all the differences that we have. So is there anything else?
To sum it up?
Yep, to sum it up.
I could not be more blessed to have the children that I have. They are not an albatross around my neck. They are not a weight, a burden that I must carry for the rest of my life. I have a saying, it came to me one day, that Luke is the anchor in my life, and Allison is the sail, the wind, and I am the ship that is just carried along between them. And
oh wow,
how I can't imagine life any differently.
Mm-hmm.
It is our life, and that when that is my focus, even the yuck, yeah, it hurts and it stinks. There are hard days. There are days that I cry myself to sleep some nights. But when my eyes are focused on Jesus and on the children that I have been blessed with, it's all good.
Yeah, amen. Thank you so much. This has been such a joy and a pleasure, and I'm really seriously considering the weekly or bi-monthly chats with Fran, because you have such unique experiences. I mean, everyone's experiences are unique because they're that person's, but I guess because I've seen what you've done in the last 10 years. And I've
on the other side now.
Yeah. And you have that second unique perspective of being someone who was quote unquote typical, and now you're not. And that whole experience of people's perception. But like we talked about a little bit before, of when they see somebody in a wheelchair, they think there's also a cognitive disability. So I was just reading, that's my mom, said, can you see the comments?
Yes, I can see the comments.
Okay.
You guys, thank you. You're making, you blessed me, both of you, all of you that have commented.
Yeah, it has been, I appreciate those that have joined in, and I hope those of you who are watching the replay of this have enjoyed this as much as those who are here, and as much as I myself have enjoyed this. I'm gonna just put this out there. Would you like me to do more chats with Fran? If you would like, I do have another parent who agreed to talk with me sometime, so we might alternate or something. But if you would like to have more chats with Fran, send me a note or type yes or whatever to somehow notify me in this thread or some other way that you would like to have these continued conversations. And also, We didn't have any questions for Fran today, but she was willing to answer questions. So if, as you're listening to the replay, you think, oh, I need more information about how she went about that guardianship thing, drop me a line and I will be sure to make sure that Fran gets it. And so she can possibly help you with that. It's probably a little bit different in different areas, but I would say in general, it's probably pretty much the same. Mom's a little biased because she would listen to me all day long, but I'm glad that she also wants to listen to you too.
I want to meet your mom one day.
And so, yeah, just let us know, and we will help you out in any way that we can. I read a story online yesterday, and I hope to do a few more of those. I have 3 more Max Lucado books that I've been given permission to read online. And so I will be doing that as well in the upcoming weeks. And if you want more information about me specifically, you can check out my website, www.iepconsultantandtutor.com, or you can find me on Facebook or Instagram and also LinkedIn. I'm everywhere.
You're everywhere. You're everywhere.
But again, thank you so much, Fran. God bless you. Give Allie a hug, and I will virtually give Luke a hug, and I will one of these days. I know I have his address. I will get a card or a letter or something in the mail.
All right.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.